So, the purpose of this project was to create and design a system for an imaginary company that used knowledge of design techniques and things learned in this course, human and computer interaction. So, this system was for an imaginary bakery called Bread and Stuff. And this is a chain of bakeries, but fairly small stores. Think perhaps the scale of Cobb's, where there's less than 50 employees per store, but a system like this would still be useful. So the purpose of this system was to handle inventory and ordering of products. We're assuming that this bakery already has a system set up to deal with the orders going out to wholesale customers or restaurants or things like that. So they were looking for a system to deal with in-house stuff and make this easier on employees. So the main tasks involved in this system would be checking inventory, dealing with the products that are in the store, the suppliers that you get these products from, as well as ordering these products from the suppliers. This is not a huge scope. Specifically, the tasks would involve checking the inventory, updating the inventory, adding new products and suppliers, updating the products and suppliers that are already in the system, and there was the idea of perhaps having an auto-ordering system so that you know you're going to be using the same amount of products and your products will last a certain amount of time, so you can set up the system to print out an order or send out an order once a month or once a week or whenever you're going to run out of product. So, for this, a number of walkthroughs were created. These were done looking at some things that might happen in a system like this. The first task walkthrough involved a manager who really wants to start using a product from a supplier that they already use. So in order to do this, this manager will open up the system and wants to be able to open up a page to update the product list for a supplier so that they can order this new product. This manager is an average computer user, which would be fairly common nowadays. Most people have a decent degree of technological know-how. So this would not necessarily be a problem. And there were a number of other walkthroughs involving common tasks, such as checking the inventory during a busy time, which might be done by a lower level employee who doesn't know the system as well, so the system should be equipped to deal with common tasks performed by individuals not intimately familiar with the system. Another one involves a notice that a product has been discontinued, which would also be something a system would need to address, so this product would need to be removed from the system. It is also possible that the system would have to deal with a few users with low computer skills. It's not fair to expect that everyone dealing with the system will be great and wonderful with technology, so the system itself should not be too difficult to use if you have been trained on it. The last one involves auto-ordering, which would be set up by probably a manager, so it's not something that necessarily every employee would need to use. These walkthroughs were created thinking about how a system would work, what kinds of people would need to be using it, what their expectations would be, and how much difficulty they would have with certain tasks. There's a lot of things in corporations where you're supposed to be trained on stuff and you aren't necessarily, so you have to think about employees who maybe they were told their first day how something works, but they don't necessarily remember it, so the more common tasks should be fairly easy to use. And with these walkthroughs, a number of requirements were listed. So it was found that the things that the system must absolutely include would be to check and update inventory levels, add or update products, delete products when they're discontinued, add suppliers, update supplier information, perhaps your supplier moved, or to delete suppliers if you're no longer using them. Also, the auto ordering functions and creating new orders, as well as having a list of orders that have already been received so that you have a way of knowing what you have used in the past. So, in developing this system, a number of low-fidelity prototypes were created, mostly in the form of sketches, actually, exclusively in the form of sketches. This ended up working really well and helped with the implementation of the system in code, because you already have what you want your pages to look like. So, for example, this is the low-fidelity prototype for the main page of the system, where it shows menus and a button for what is assumed to be the most common usage of the system, which would be to check inventory. So then you would click that button and end up looking at a page that would look like this, where your products are listed and you know how much you have. So then there are, more low fidelity prototypes for the other pages in the system, and in showing these, you have kind of a guideline and something to show your client to say, this is the system we have come up with. Is this what you want? And then they can evaluate that and tell you if any changes are requested, or if perhaps there's something that they forgot to tell you that is really important to have in the system, or if any misunderstandings have come up. And so the low fidelity prototypes will definitely increase the usefulness of the system when it's done, and will decrease your costs because you haven't gone to the trouble of actually coding this yet. It's just a sketch that you can create in a few minutes, so then your client knows that you know what they want. So this system was created mostly using Java, actually exclusively using Java, mostly Swing, and was created in NetBeans. This was very useful as they have a wonderful preview option here that when you're creating a system will let you look at one page at a time. I mean, none of the buttons will work, but it is quite a useful tool. And when designing this system, a number of design principles were kept in mind. One thing that was not harped upon, but noted quite a bit within the textbook for this course was that you don't want to confuse your users. So your system should not be too complex. Everything should be well laid out and easy to find. So for this system, there is a thing here that shows you where you are, so that you expect that when you go back, you will go back to the home page, which is what happens. There's also a go back button, as it makes users generally feel more in control if they can go back. As well, there's not a ton of stuff on each page, with the exception of the home page, and that even that still has quite a bit of space. So it's not overwhelming. There's easy to find buttons. Menus do not have too many options. Each one has 2 or 3. And just in general, it is a fairly simple system. And last but not least, let's see how the system works. So we're starting it up, and you get to the main page here. Now you have your settings options. There's a quit option or preferences page. You can add or update a product, or go to the product list, add and update a supplier, go to the supplier list, place an order, review orders, or auto ordering. So first, let's check out the check inventory. So this page shows the inventory that is currently available. There's an option to update or to go back. If you go back, it takes you back to your main page. Then for products, you can go to add or update a product. In this case, it would be add, and you can add all sorts of things. So for example, if we're naming flour, and we have our Flour Co., and perhaps it is $12. So you confirm it, but it is an invalid entry because Flour Co. is actually not on the list of suppliers in the system. So if we try again and we say JCB Flour, then we are prompted if we wish to continue, and if we confirm it, it will take us back to the main page. This is also something that's very useful, so because we do not want incorrect data to be entered in there. So if we can check that our suppliers, if we're trying to enter a product that is from no supplier on our list, we don't really want to do that. So a confirmation button helps, and more than that, input validation is very important. So if we want to look at supplier details, this is just an example, but this would be a supplier detail page. Shows you the name and address of the supplier as well as what products are available. Now we can also update this. Maybe we don't want to, so we go back, takes us back to the main page. You can look at your orders that you've done, and also there is auto ordering. So if we want to get a new auto order, this is one of the only pages you can't get to from the main page, but we can specify supplier, when we want the next order to be, and how often we want these orders to be placed, as well as which items we want ordered. So we'll cancel this and it'll take us back. We go back to the main page, and this is the Bread and Stuff inventory and order system.